Dr. Kathy, you have gone wild again. Clinical literature is not real-world experience. These are made-up terms, the ideas of limerence and mate poaching, to push the stay married or die alone agenda. Okay, well, this is interesting. Let's lean into this. So, clinical research is completely based on real world experience, right? An idea, a hypothesis comes from the real world, right? Clinicians doing work, and then we test it with other people. Many researchers are also clinicians, especially in the infidelity space. There's tons and tons of real world data that informs our research, and you can go to Google Scholar and find out about that. Now, when it comes to the terms mate poaching and limerence, it may surprise you to know that that's all over the clinical literature, even as recently as this year. So let's go look at Google Scholar. Okay, so I went to Google Scholar, I typed in limerence, I set the time frame to since 2023, and there's a couple pages of results. So you can see that we are still talking about this in the clinical literature and still doing research related to this. Now let's check out mate poaching. Okay, yes, same thing. I put in mate poaching since 2023, dozens of articles. So there's still a lot of work being done related to these concepts. They're not antiquated and useless necessarily. They have limited validity to kind of everyday problems, but we're still talking about them and they're definitely not made up terms. Okay, so what about the idea that, there is this stay married or die alone agenda? I don't know who has this agenda, and I can imagine that historically some people have promoted this. But here's the thing. You do not need to be married in this day and age, right? In olden times, perhaps you did to be seen as, appropriate or valued as a woman. You can be alone in a marriage, right? So saving the marriage at all costs is never the answer. And I would tell you that I think the loneliest place to be is in a miserable, unhappy marriage. And I would never encourage somebody to stay in that situation. You need to do what is right for yourself. And any clinician that tells you you should just throw your own judgment out the window and just do what they tell you to do is not somebody I think you should be continuing to work with. A good clinician respects your autonomy, wants to support you doing what's right for you, recommends things based on research and information and experience and knowledge, not just hunches. So I think we need to reframe some of this conversation and say, do what's right for yourself. Terms like limerence and mate poaching have value in our conversations, but they're not the end all be all, right? There's many factors that influence people's behavior. You should definitely not stay married because otherwise you're going to die alone. And clinical literature is always based on real world experience. There are things that are, done in research like literature reviews, but that's just a compilation of other real world experience. So I'm not sure how we do research without the real world experience, but maybe there's a way I just don't know about it. All right, so let's talk about it more if you want to.